Hi guys, Jonathan here. So this is the second episode of my diaries series, and so today we're talking about Copenhagen, as you probably saw in the title, because I visited Copenhagen in February, and I have here my notes from the trip. Basically I did the same thing that I did when I went to London. Every day I was taking notes of what I did during the day. So I will show you some of the pictures that I took during those days. I will show you some of the places that I visited in Copenhagen. That is the capital of Denmark, for those of you who didn't know. And yeah, so let's start with this, reading this. Friday, February 14th. Here's a new diary from a vacation, this time in a place I've never been before, Copenhagen. It's almost 2 a.m. on Saturday and we just finished eating. We bought some Indian food to heat up from the Netto supermarket, which was thankfully open until midnight. Here in Copenhagen, it seems places close early for dinner, noted for the next few nights. For once, we didn't have to take an early morning or night flight. In fact, the plane that was supposed to leave at 2:30 p.m. practically took off at 4:30. Yeah, we didn't expect that, but you know. We arrived at Copenhagen airport after 9 p.m. We should have arrived at 7 p.m. but still. And after some time figuring out how the tickets work, download the .tickets app if you come there, otherwise you'll go crazy. Yeah, the the .tickets app is very, very useful, and I totally recommend downloading it instead of buying the tickets on the machines, because it's easier in my opinion. We finally arrived at the Bob W. Osterbro Hotel. I don't know what bro means, but it's at the end of every area around here. Yeah, the place was called Osterbro, then there was a Norrebro, I think, and other things with bro in the end. Not much to say for today. We still celebrated Valentine's Day with some wine and a Kinder egg and went to sleep in the end. Tomorrow we start a real exploration and the various content to create. First impressions. Everything is very beautiful. The streets are wide and spacious. That are synonyms. The people are calm, even at these hours. We didn't meet a lot of people actually at these hours. The prices at the supermarket were super affordable too. I didn't expect that. That is true. Postscriptum. For now, it's as cold as in my little town in northern Italy in December, and on the plane I watched Civil War. It was alright. Yeah, it was nice. Civil War, the film. Saturday, February 15th. This morning we went to look for the typical pastry shop, Sankt Peders Bageri, but once we found it, there was a very long queue, so we opted for a lesser-known pastry shop a few meters away, Roast Coffee. 10 euros per person for coffee and pastry is the average price for breakfast snack in Copenhagen from my last 24 hours of experience. Actually, it was even less than 24 hours, but in the end we paid 10 euros every day for breakfast or for breaks, with a coffee and pastry, or with a chocolate and pastry, or this kind of stuff. It's more or less 10 euros per person. Anyway, the pastry was delicious with cardamom, which I don't think I've ever eaten before. Yeah, probably not. And I tried the filter coffee that I had only heard about online. It was good, but I don't know if it was because it was a filter coffee or because the coffee was good to begin with. I don't know, honestly, I still don't know. We realized two things as soon as we left. Actually 3. It was snowing, we were in the vintage shop district, and there were a lot of people queuing to enter a place that made bubble tea and other typical oriental things. Later in the day we saw dozens of other people queuing to enter a shop dedicated to K-pop, and I started to think that maybe in Copenhagen people are obsessed with oriental culture. Yeah, probably it's like this. Anyway, the vintage shop where we spent the most time and where we bought something actually was Wasteland, which I recommend because it's nice and could cost more for being in Denmark. Yeah, it's pretty cheap, not super cheap, but it's cheap for Copenhagen. So I totally recommend Wasteland if you like vintage shops, and even if you don't like vintage shops, you can always visit. After seeing some shops and starting to take some photos and videos, we went to get a typical ristet hot dog with cucumbers, onions, mustard and various things, and a Carlsberg, which is Danish but tastes like any blonde beer. Yeah, it's a normal blonde beer, like a normal beer. Carlsberg, I mean, I think that you know it. We then arrived at Lille Langebro, which is another bro thing, which is a beautiful pedestrian bridge, but even more beautiful was a guy who was swimming while it was still snowing and gave me a nice shot that is in my cinematic video of Copenhagen. If you still didn't watch it, go watch it after the end of this video. I shot some things for the cinematic and we went back towards Kongens Nytorv. Yeah, guys, I'm sure like 100% I'm butchering these names, but I'm not Danish, so like I've passed by it 1,000 times now for a snack. We then entered a place that smelled of cigarettes and cat pee. The first was bearable, but the second wasn't. True, totally. And after 1,000 detours, we ended up having dinner at that Lille Apothek. I recommended the typical roast pork, a bomb. It's a bomb, it's very good. The dishes in restaurants practically always cost at least 30 euros each. You have to get into this mindset here. Then we went back to the apartment to watch the Sanremo final, because with -4 degrees you lose the desire to be out and about. So, and there's not we discovered that there is not like a lot to do during the night in Copenhagen. For sure we don't know the right places. Sure there will be like bars, discotheques, nightclubs, kind of stuff, but we didn't see a lot of them, so in the end we decided to go back to the apartment. Sunday, February 16th. Today we went to Christiania, the free/anarchic district of Copenhagen. We arrived at the Christianshavn metro and had the breakfast at Lagkage Cafe, a chain we also went to for a snack. And guess how much we spent? The usual 10 euros each. There was a beautiful view of the canal and the colorful houses, and I took some shots. We then headed towards Christiania, and along the way we saw a kind of church that was good for other shots. The Christiania district is nice, characteristic, and it will certainly take another video to talk about the various implications, politics, etc. So I leave you with my first impressions. I couldn't take photos or videos, so I leave you with a little I managed to do /find. Yeah, probably I will add something from Google. It's a self-managed area where you can smoke weed and generally promotes the anarchic and free lifestyle. Unfortunately, despite being close to my political vision, I expected it to be different. Maybe I was more interested in the history and less in the Rasta market with Bob Marley stuff aspect. I walked around practically all of it and even saw kind of a bistro, not a fancy one, but definitely something I didn't expect there. Yeah, honestly, I didn't expect like a bistro to be there, like a proper French bistro, that kind of stuff. The idea I got was that it was all to sell to tourists, which makes sense since it should be self-managed and attract the attention of a certain type of curious public, but I didn't see much of the spirit of the place, unfortunately. Then we went to eat at Hooked, which makes fried fish, good and not too expensive, and we set off for the Little Mermaid. After 30 minutes of walking and after seeing very cool landscapes, always under the snow, today it didn't snow, but it was still there because it was always around -6 degrees, we saw the Little Mermaid, which is basically a statue in the water. I knew it wasn't anything special because everyone says not to have expectations, but actually I didn't dislike it. I actually liked it. Maybe tourists expect to see something more, but it's a statue in the end. Yeah, it's a small statue in the water, and yeah, probably some people expect a bit too much, probably, but it's it's a statue in the water. It's nice. Then we went for a snack. I had a hot chocolate without thinking that I'm lactose intolerant, but nothing happened, luckily. We went towards a rock metal bar that was closed, and then we went to drink a beer while the Premier League was on TV. We closed the day with another roasted hot dog, and at 9 p.m. we were in the apartment. Everything closes early here, but it's good for relaxing because there are things to do tomorrow too. Monday, February 17th. I slept terribly, woke up worse, and we're going to see some shops, and tonight there's a concert. I hope to get there. These are the first things I wrote this morning to not lose the thread, and actually the person who didn't get to the concert was someone else. We'll get there. This morning I felt really bad, dry throat, headache, aching limbs, strange nausea. We entered the Sankt Peter's pastry shop and I almost vomited because it was too hot and too crowded. I drank an orange juice, though, and postponed my sentence. Yeah, it's a bit strong, but I was actually feeling like that. We went to see some shops, including one of photography, actually two, that were trying to sell used lenses at the price of new ones, or we didn't understand each other and they were new. In any case, on this channel we don't buy new photographic equipment, as you know, so nothing. I dragged myself to the Nyhavn area, the colorful houses in the canal, and then I also shot a POV that I think is quite bad, but I'll see it better in post-production. Actually, I just finished editing the POV and it's quite nice, it's not bad. I mean, it could have been worse, but yeah, at this point you will already have seen it. We took some photos with the Instax Mini borrowed from the hotel. We took practically all of them against the light and they came out terribly, of course. Yeah, our pictures with the Instax Mini were not great, but still. We found a place where the menu was 30, then 35 and then 40 each, based on hypothetical additions from the waitress. Yeah, it's an interesting story. But was it worth it to eat the smørrebrød? Yes, I guess. Yeah, I was feeling very bad during that day, so I don't have like a lot of memories of the smørrebrød. I remember that it was quite good, I think. We paid a bit for something that is actually a toast, like a sandwich. We then went to the Rund something. Yeah, it was called Rund Tarn, Rund something like that. Something which is the tower from where the planets were observed and studied, and there was a view of the city during sunset with the snow still on the roofs. Yeah, that was quite cinematic, was quite nice. I shot the last clip of the cinematic and the last clip of the POV there. It's super ambitious to pull out 3 interesting videos from a trip of practically 3 full days. Yeah, it is, but we managed to do it. I had a moment of epiphany while I was looking out of the window of the Towers Gifts shop, and I felt like a Danish child who was happy for the snow. Yeah, I did feel like this. After a few seconds, I came back to myself and started whining again with Claudia because I didn't want to go to shops and I wanted to go home to rest for the concert. We get 2 little pizzas at 7-Eleven, a bottle of Coca-Cola and go home to make a quick makeshift dinner before the concert. I lie down on the bed to put on my trousers. Yes, we are at that point in my life that I have to lie down on the bed to put on the trousers. And I see that Marilyn Manson had posted a story, Omen of Death. The story read: due to laryngitis, Marilyn Manson will not perform tonight in Copenhagen. Yeah, at this point you would already have understood that me and Claudia went to Copenhagen to visit the city, but also to attend Marilyn Manson's concert. The little desire to live that remained in me, Marilyn Manson's throat, and the overpriced tickets bought 160 months ago for fear that they would run out went away at the same time. Yeah, all 3 things went away at the same time. A little trip to the local Netto supermarket, bought 2 random things and went back home, harassing Claudia as usual about my existential doubts and why I constantly have a target on my head. I took a shower, but the soap didn't wash away my sense of bitterness. Yeah, I was pretty angry when I wrote this, and a bit poetic as well. Tuesday, February 18th. I woke up a little better than yesterday, but not much, still with cough, etc. Spoiler, the next day I stayed home from work because I practically didn't sleep due to the cough. Spoiler 2, I stayed home until the weekend because I also got a fever. Like it was close to 39 degrees. It was like a lot. I never experienced like a fever this high, and it was quite an experience. In the morning we went to the National Gallery of Denmark before going to catch the plane. The museum was good, it wasn't too expensive, and it had a section on Danish and Nordic art. Really? That was very interesting because there were artists I'd never heard of, like Hammershøi, a bomb, another bomb. It was great, Hammershøi. Really interesting, like paintings that look like pictures taken with a camera. It was a bit dark, also a bit obscure. No, it was really interesting. We arrived at the airport just in time, and I discovered that Norwegian as an airline is slightly smarter and smoother than the usual EasyJet and Ryanair. Really? Part 2. We arrived and it took us over an hour in an Uber from the airport to home because it was rush hour on the bridge. We are already in Lisbon at this point. Final considerations. Considering that I'm still recovering from the flu I caught, at this point I believe, on vacation, I think so. Copenhagen is beautiful, but I thought it would have impressed me more. I mean, it's really beautiful and I like the things I did and saw a lot, but it didn't make me think I would live here. I don't know for what particular reason. Everyone had warned me about the cold. They were right, because in the end it was really cold outside of the first day. For the rest of the time the average was about -6 degrees. I was not expecting something like that. We're not used to that. I mean, we live in Portugal, so it's slightly different, you know. They had also warned me about the money. Actually, yes, it's expensive, but I thought it would be worse for some things. Like at the supermarket, everything seemed quite affordable. Yeah, it's true, the supermarkets didn't look that expensive. All of the other things were expensive, but the supermarkets not. I think I will go back, especially for the pastries and the vintage shops, but as I said before, it didn't become one of my favorite cities, even if the snow made it more magical and iconic. I still have to see what came out in terms of content. I hope there is something good. Actually, there was something good. In general, I also hope to be able to better manage the time I dedicate to creating content on vacation, because it's a bit overwhelming sometimes, not knowing whether to film, photograph or live in the moment. But maybe I will make a separate video about it. Yeah, I think that it's like an interesting topic. Probably I will shoot something like about that. Who knows? We'll see. But it's important to manage the time when you are on vacation, if you want to create contents as well and stuff like this. Now that I think about it, I still have to make a video about Dogma 95. Sure. Maybe you'll be interested, or maybe you don't know what it is. It's the main topic of my thesis in film history when I went to university, and it has a lot to do with Denmark. Let me know in the comments if you found anything interesting in the video. Yeah, guys, as I just said, let me know in the comments if you found anything interesting in this video. So I hope that you enjoyed it, that you enjoyed this I mean the pictures that I put here and there in the video, the videos, the overall story of what happened when I went to Copenhagen for the first time. And let me know, yeah, if you enjoyed it, if you visited other places that I missed, or anything that you want, guys. Let's keep the conversation here as usual. And yeah, thanks for watching this video, and see you in the next one. That won't be related to Copenhagen, the next one, because this is the last video about Copenhagen for now. Bye, guys.